Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Berea City Council meeting Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. I'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please let the record reflect that we do have a quorum. This time I would call on Teresa Sanders to lead us in the invocation, followed by Ronnie Terrell to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Teresa.
If you'll bow with me. Father God, we thank you for every provision you give us. We ask that you grant us wisdom as we do our best to make the right decisions for our city. And as we celebrate the birth of Jesus, we ask that you help us to share his love with those who need it most. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve? By Jim Davis. Is there a second? By Teresa Sanders. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll request a voice vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. The agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from December 3rd, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from December 3rd?
So moved.
By Steve Cottle, second by Jerry Little. Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes? Seeing none, I'll request a voice vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. The motion carries and the minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is street acceptance, Stony Creek, Unit 3, Phases 1A and 1B, and Wildwood Way. And I'll recognize Codes and Planning Administrator Amanda Hayne. Amanda, you have the floor.
Hi, good evening. Codes and Planning and Public Works Department have inspected Stony Creek, Unit 3, Phases 1A and 1B, and Wildwood Way, which is that big boulevard entrance off of Richmond Road, and found that the infrastructure is complete, and we've gone out, made a punch list of deficiencies. Those have now been corrected. So this evening, we are asking for street acceptance into our assets for the city. I will also, on behalf of BMU, be asking for sewer acceptance, but we do have a representative, Josh from BMU here, if you have specific questions. So the street right-of-way consists of approximately 415 feet of that boulevard entrance, so that's a larger 90-foot right-of-way width on Wildwood Way. A section of Wildwood Way that is about 1,200 linear feet from that boulevard entrance to the roundabout, and then another 650 linear feet at the intersection of Stillwater Drive and Brook Cove. On Stillwater Drive, there's approximately 710 linear feet, 465 on Stony Creek Way, 330 on Middle Creek Way, and 515 feet on Brook Cove. There are 2 detention ponds as part of this particular subdivision, and we do have a recorded stormwater maintenance agreement for Stony Creek Holdings to maintain those ponds. So those will not be part of the city's maintenance. The total assets to the city for 5,285 linear feet of street right-of-way is $2,292,000. Berea Municipal Utilities has inspected and approved the following: approximately 795 linear feet of 8-inch PVC gravity sewer and 4 manholes on Wildwood Way. In phase, they actually are doing phase 1A, 1B and 1C. So for the streets, we will do 1C at a later date. But the sewer infrastructure is installed and approved. So 3,650 linear feet of 8-inch gravity and 15 manholes in Unit 3, Phase 1B. And in Phase 1C, approximately 3,600 of 8-inch gravity sewer and 15 new manholes. So this evening, we would ask for approval and acceptance of those items into city maintenance.
Motion to approve both the streets and the utilities.
A motion, is there a second? Is that you, Ronnie, on the second? Jerry, second. Discussion, Ronnie?
The ponds, the acceptance, what does that mean? Will they mow it ever month, or, I mean, I've seen ponds that people don't take care of growing up, and I wanna see that.
So with our stormwater maintenance agreement, they are supposed to mow those ponds. They won't be done monthly, because there's so many months that you won't be able to get into the ponds because it'll be too wet. What we are asking is that they, are maintained to a level, presentable to the people who live out there. So, we've had them mow those ponds a couple times. They've actually done a lot of work recently on them. They're in really good shape. At this point, they need some grass to get established in them. But the expectation will be that they mow those, and, if they do not, then the city would mow those and send them a bill.
Other discussion on the motion? Other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll request a voice vote. All in favor of the motion to accept the street and sewer infrastructure into city maintenance as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Amanda, and thank you to Josh and the water sewer crew as well. So I'm sure they were involved in that part. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is resolution number 17-2024, 911 interlocal agreement number 2, and I will recognize City Attorney Jerry Gilbert. Jerry.
I'll summarize resolution number 17-2024 by title. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Berea, Kentucky, adopting and approving the execution of a revised agreement for the Madison County Emergency Communications Center, transitioning from the current joint 911 to a county department funded by a 911 fee assessed on property tax bills for Madison County, establishing the Madison County Emergency Communications Center, establishing the Public Safety Advisory Board, the Office of 911 Director, providing for personnel to be county employees, and providing for budget and financial administration of the Madison County Emergency Communications Center.
Thank you, sir. And before I request a motion without objection, I'd like to recognize City Administrator Rose Beverly. This is a second iteration of this particular agreement. You'll recall that we passed a resolution to approve the agreement back in October, but before Richmond and the county agreed or approved theirs, there was a need for some changes, and those have now been made. So Rose, would you maybe just cover that briefly for
You
the
bet.
council?
Yeah, so it's really a small change now, but the county, well, Richmond and Berea were on board, and the county found something in the contract before they approved it that they weren't comfortable with. And so now we've had to go back to the table and meet as the CSEB group and kind of reevaluate, and it's almost the way that it was when we passed it, but I'll tell you what the changes are. So it's number 4 on page 4 of the agreement, and it says all applications for the 911 director shall be submitted to Madison County, who shall establish a panel to review all applications and conduct applicant interviews. The panel shall consist of the members of the executive board of the Public Safety Advisory Board, and the interview panel will make a recommendation to the judge executive to be approved by the fiscal court under the normal Madison County hiring process. So the one that we had passed before just had the board of the 911 board making the selection, and this one says that the panel will be selected and it will be of the executive board. So that was the change that they wanted, or that we ended up agreeing upon. And then the last change is between page 5 and page 6 of this. So this is about so this will be made up of Madison County, the city of Richmond, and the city of Berea, just like it is right now. but it's dealing with in case somebody wants to leave, one of those group wanted to leave and do their own 911, or in case two of the parties got together and said the other one's not paying, not doing their part, we want them to leave. So we don't want to think like that, but you have to put worst case scenarios, I think, in any of these. So basically, we added time frames that you have to give notice. So if one of the parties was to want to leave, they have to give notice to the other parties because that impacts them. And if they wanted to kick another party out, if they weren't doing their part, they would need to give them notice as well. So those are the two changes that we have added, or that got changed. Yeah.
How much notice you gotta give if one party wanted to leave?
So a party's participation in this agreement may be terminated by any party upon written notice to the other parties, provided at least 180 days prior to certification of the county's annual tax rolls, and include an exit plan and timeline to the Public Safety Board and participating parties. So that was the first part. Yep, this agreement may be dissolved upon the annual anniversary date by mutual agreement of all the participating government entities with a minimum of 12 months notice at an exit time and timeline approved by the Public Safety Advisory Board. Upon dissolution, all monetary assets shall be distributed among the participating government entities. So that addressed both things, if they wanted to just dissolve it or if somebody just wanted to leave. Yep.
Thank you, Rose, and at this point, I will request a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Is there a motion to approve the resolution, and we'll have discussion?
So moved.
Got
Do it.
a motion, is there a second, and then we'll go to discussion, Jim? Is there a second by Ronnie, and discussion, Jim?
To make this decision is made up of representatives from each government.
Right, so the executive board of the advisory board is made up of, oh, Sean, you might have to help me here. I know it would be the judge executive, the city administrator for here, the city manager for the city of Richmond, and how many other people, do you remember?
Yeah, EMS director has a position on the executive board, and then there's 3 members made up of the other public safety people that would serve as the vice chair, the chair, and the secretary. So
They'd be rotating it.
yeah, they would rotate every year, so, or every 2 years. I'm sorry. The vice chair would move up to chair, and they're made up of say Berea Police Chief, Berea Fire Chief, so on and so forth. They're make up of the other 3, but city administrator and those are on the board permanently. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second, and I will add, this is something that wrote, couple of things really. Number one, on this, we felt the changes were substantial enough that the resolution that you passed back in April was really not sufficient for me to sign the new one, and that needed to come to you all to read the new. We're comfortable with the changes. I think that's fair to say, right, Rose? Then the other thing that I'll mention in relation to that Rose and I have talked about is we really have a great EMA 911 set up in Madison County where there's maximum cooperation between the 3 governments and also the ambulance board, the emergency management. So and our 911 employees. So it's a great team, but with this, if you remember, this is because the CSEP funding is going away. We have to pull together and kind of rework our organization. And credit to Rose and Sean, who've represented both the city of Berea on that working group task force. But again, just want to make sure that everybody is clear that the level of cooperation and teamwork within the county is outstanding. You don't see that in other places. Jerry?
What's the cost of this to our city?
First year there's a cost. After that, we actually save.
Well, we might not have a cost for a while, but we do have, this is an interlocal agreement because there is an exchange of money. So the 911 fee can cover almost everything that you can conceive of that 911 could cost, but there are a few things that possibly would not be covered. Therefore, we will be putting $10,000 as needed in per each entity, up to $10,000 a year, to cover any expenses that the 911 fee, which is set out by KRS, can't cover. And they're very specific on the things it can and can't cover. So the cost for us for 911 have gone down to, it could be up to a $500,000 this year, would go down to at the most $10,000 a year. So that's good. But you want me to keep going, or do you wanna?
I was just gonna have a reminder. We all agreed that we should have an emergency management sinking fund with the savings
So,
for next year's budget.
that's exactly what I was gonna, yes, transition to. So emergency management, however, we will be pitching in with the county for that. So that would be, we're thinking right now it looks like $60,000 or $70,000 a year. We will all three be contributing, or, I mean, the county's the one who statutorily will be the emergency management facilitator, but also Richmond and the city of Berea would chip in probably $60,000 or $70,000 a year to help pay for that, instead of having their own emergency management, which just seems like it doesn't make sense because of the way the state structures emergency management, and also duplicating the same thing when it has to go through them at the end of the day anyway. So we would rather contribute and be a part of the emergency management team. And that would also, and that'll be the next phase of this that we'll be working on, that will also have its own little board and meeting set up and all, just like 911.
So getting to Steve's point, is it gonna be 60 or 70,000 we put into the sinking emergency?
No,
Explain
that's
that
actually
to me.
different. So, she's talking about we're gonna have to contribute about $60,000 to $70,000 maybe in the near future to the emergency management for the entire county. I'm talking about we aren't gonna get any more funds from CSEP ever again. And so when we have to replace our radio towers, our radios,
Yes. I'm
our,
sorry, I misunderstood you. Okay.
equipment that we've traditionally been gotten money from our federal government. We all said in the meeting the last time that we would take the funds in the upcoming budget that would have gone to 911, instead of redeploying that elsewhere in the budget, we are going to set up a capital sinking fund so that in 10 years when our radios all die and it's $800,000,
Yes.
we don't panic.
Yes, we could do that in our own budget. So we
Right.
will need to put some money aside every year, a certain amount of money in our own budget to buy the radios, because that is the one thing that we will not, you cannot use that 911 fee. So we will need to do that as well. But even taking that and putting that aside, and the money that for a few years we'll probably put into the 911 fee and paying for emergency management, there will be a substantial savings. And the fund itself will also have a sinking fund basically as it grows, so that if they need to replace towers someday and stuff, that's allowable, and they will be planning ahead for the replacement of those towers using that 911 fee, not our taxes. So the whole plan to me has come together very nicely to set us up to be okay for today to make the transition and hopefully into the future. A lot of thought and definitely a lot of work went into this.
So the 911 fee's got some excess in it, and that excess can go into a sinking fund, is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing you?
The 911 fee does as well. Yep.
It has some excess in it, so that'll go
Yeah.
into the sinking
It's
fund.
built in so that, in 20, 30 years when we need to replace a tower and it's $14 million, that the money, they'll be planning ahead and making sure every year and assessing how much money they would need. Yep.
Good, thank you, Rose. Sean, anything else that you want to add while we're on the topic, since you were on the task force? Okay. Do we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve and adopt resolution number 17-2024? Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none? Teresa?
I'd like
All
a clarification. The board is position specific, right?
Yes, it is, but there's a bigger board and then there's an executive board which will rotate in. So I can't, is it 12 members on the board, Sean? 11, 14?
I think maybe you're misunderstanding me. When I say position specific, I mean, when you leave us for that
Oh,
big
absolutely.
hat place.
Yes, yes.
There are two at-large positions, right? Community positions on the board?
No, it's
Did we
all
just
made
talk
up
about
of
that?
public safety personnel. So you have
Did I make that up?
Madison County Sheriff, Coroner's Office has a position, yeah. All of public safety is on that board,
Yeah.
a representation of public safety. Now, on the executive board, it's made up of the public safety members of 3 positions. That's the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary.
And they are position specific. So, yes, if I change, then it's whoever
That-
gets put in this,
That's,
or an interim.
that's, yes. because
Okay.
If Richmond's or the county's EMA director or something
Changes.
it'll
changes.
be the, okay.
Absolutely. And I want to add one more thing because I won't be here. the emergency management side of this now, we will now be working on that agreement, and that will also be an interlocal agreement. So that will come up before you when that is ready. That is the thing that now we are meeting on. The CSEP task force is still meeting because we've got the 911 part we feel straightened out. If you guys all approve it, if all the elected officials approve it, then the next step is the emergency management interlocal agreement.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second to approve and adopt resolution number 17-2024. Any additional discussion? Any additional discussion? Seeing none, I'll request a voice vote. All in favor of the motion to approve and adopt resolution number 17-2024, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, please say no. The motion carries and the resolution's approved. Sean and Rose, thank you again for your work on that, and keep doing the good work. Moving forward, next item on the agenda is ordinance number 24-2024, 1035 Peggy's Flats Road zone change, and this is a second reading. Mr. Gilbert.
Having read ordinance number 24-2024 in its entirety in its first reading, I'll summarize the ordinance by title. An ordinance of the City of Berea, Kentucky, changing the zoning classification of property described herein and referred to as 1035 Peggy Flats Road and owned by Lester Stewart from agricultural to single-family residential.
And Mr. Gilbert did go through the options that the council would have on this ordinance, one of which is to accept the recommendations of the Planning Commission and move to approve the ordinance. Is there a motion?
To accept.
Motion to accept by Steve. Is there a second? By Jerry Little. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve and adopt ordinance number 24-2024? Are you ready for the question? Ordinance does require a roll call vote, and we'll begin with Jerry Little. Steve Cottle.
Aye.
Ronnie Terrell. Teresa Centers.
Aye.
Jim Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries, and ordinance number 24-2024 is approved and adopted. The next item on the agenda is department head reports, and I'm pleased to welcome back the person who keeps all of our systems up and running, Daniel Brindley. He has to come out
Man
of the
behind the curtain.
Superman again. Daniel, you have the floor. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Administrator Beverly. I actually looked back at my notes from the last time I did this, and it's kind of funny because I'm going to talk about the same thing. The last time I was up here, I told you that one of my big projects for the fiscal year was to replace our city's main firewall, and then alongside of that, do some reconstruction of the network. The reconstruction of the network was something I've always wanted to done. There was some things that were done before my time that I didn't like, but in order for me to break them would be to break the entire city. So with replacing the firewall, I had that opportunity to do that. So over Thanksgiving break, Tommy and myself, we started planning and seeing what we wanted to break and what we wanted to recreate. And so everything went really smooth. We probably spent the week before that and that entire week programming the new firewall in my office and planning on new networks and things we wanted to limit and things we wanted to expand. And then the Friday after Thanksgiving, we came in that night, did a little bit of work, and then came in Saturday morning, replaced the firewall. Everything went really well. We were only here for a couple hours. I think the longest part is we have to drive to every site that connects to us, and I think that was the longest part of the meeting. So like we had to drive to the sewer plant, the water plant, Parks Building, Folk Center, and we got all those buildings back up within a few hours. So everything went really, really well. But I just thought it was funny. The last time I was here, I was telling you that that was a future project that I plan on working on, and it was a really big. So we just finished that last week. Got a few more things that'll be just tidying up, but nothing that'll involve any downtime. I have to recreate the backup internet connection since we replaced the firewall. There's a lot of settings that are different now. So I got to recreate the backup internet connection that's over in the utilities building. But all that can be done during business hours and doesn't take anybody down or anything when we do that, and should be fairly simple once we get the configuration ready to go. That's been consuming a lot of our time, but other than that, we've been sending out computer inventory reports to all the departments. Over the last few years, we've been slowly getting everybody on a cycle to keep computers. I don't like a computer to be older than 5 years. A laptop 3-ish. If it's still good at 3, then we keep it. But if it starts having problems around 3, we like to replace it. So what we started doing a few years ago is we bought an inventory system that's mainly for IT items, and it can generate reports and says, hey, the codes department has a computer that's 5 years old. And we can put notes in there too, like if we're constantly having a problem with this user, and then it gives me some justification to push them to get a new one, and then it also gives them justification budget-wise to say, hey, look, Daniel's documented this, it's 5 years old, we got our value out of it. So we've been doing a lot of that. Try to do that before budget and before budget amendment in case anything needs to change. So I think within the last month or so, my whole office has just been stacked with computers that we've been trying to get everybody. We're almost through it. I think we've only got like 3 or 4 left to go, but we've been super busy setting everybody up for that. And then so far, from what I hear, at least the department heads really do like the report for, because sometimes it gets away from you. I know when I first started doing this, Kevin's not here, so I'll throw him under the bus. He had some computers that were really, really old, and then you just don't realize it until someone hands you a paper and says, hey, you know, this computer's 10 years old and it needs to go. And then sometimes, you know, if I just came to you today and said, hey, this computer's 10 years old, you need to replace it, you might say, well, I didn't budget for that. So now with this, like I said, I send them out before budgets and before budget amendments, and everybody can plan. So it's been working out really well. That's kind of all I got for tonight.
Good, thank you, Daniel. Questions or comments for Daniel? Ronnie?
I understand that we're getting
iPads?
iPads.
Yes, I have all.
Well, let's turn him in.
So I do have everybody new iPads. I'm about halfway done through setting them up. I've run into a small problem, is that Apple has gotten a little bit more secure, so I don't have your guys' cell phones to activate the new ones. So I'll probably have to get with everybody individually and set up the accounts at some point. So I don't care to come early on a council meeting, or I can come in on the swearing-in ceremony day. But the problem is 2-factor authentication. I think when I gave you guys the iPads originally, I can set up everything in your name because I can get into your emails, I can do all that stuff, but I can't get into your cell phone. So whenever it sends those codes, I can't do it. But I do have new ones for everybody, but I'll probably have to get with everybody individually to do the final part of the setup.
Other questions or comments for Daniel? Daniel, appreciate all the work that you do, and Tommy Horn. Let's not
Yes.
forget Tommy. You all do a great job as a 2-person team taking
Yep,
care of all of us.
Tommy is
So thank
awesome.
you.
We got really lucky on him. So
Absolutely. Good team. Thank you, man.
thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
Next item on the agenda is public comments. Would any members of the public like to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move forward to the city administrator's report, and I'll recognize City Administrator Rose Beverly. Rose.
Thank you. You can tell by my notes that I have a lot to talk about tonight. Really, I just want to let everybody know, I'm getting ready to transition out. So I've been trying to catch Sean up. He's been awesome, working together to try to make sure that he's up to date on all the projects that I have going on, or that I don't have them, the city has them. So when I leave, they'll stay here. And so we're trying to make sure that we're being prepared for that. But other than that, I just want to make sure that I can answer any questions, or, you can email me, call me. We can answer questions now, or if you think of something later, if you want an update. I just want to make sure that I'm leaving everybody with all the information that they need. So.
Thank you, Rose.
Okay.
Questions? I'm sorry, go
Oh
ahead.
no, I just want to say one more thing. And Jim, I don't want to make a big deal out of it because I know you don't like it, but I'm still going to say it's been awesome to work with you, and thank you for all the work that you've done for this city. I know you've been a very passionate council member, and it's been great to work with you, and I would say the same for David as well. But really appreciate you very much.
Questions or comments for Rose? Seeing none, thank you, Rose.
Okay.
All right, we'll move forward to the mayor's comments. To kind of add to Rose what she's already mentioned, I want to begin by thanking Sean Sandlin for being willing to step up again and accept my offer to be the acting city administrator while we get everything sorted out. Appreciate that, Sean, and appreciate you working with Rose and Rose working with you to make sure the city's in good hands without any interruption. So very much appreciate that. My comments also for David Rowlett, who was not able to be with us tonight. This will be David's last meeting, and I want to thank David for his service to the city and to the citizens, and for his passion about making Berea a better place. David is a good friend, and we will miss him, but we appreciate his service. And also to Jim Davis, as many of you know, Jim has been one of my most trusted advisors during my tenure as mayor, but also when we were on council together. So I'm very grateful for Jim's service to the city and the citizens, and I know that Berea is a better place and will be a better place for generations to come because of Jim's effort and his work on behalf of the people. Jim, thank you. That concludes my comments. We'll move forward to council comments and begin with Jerry Little.
I've got a couple of things. The first thing I've got is I want to thank you, Jim, for your service, your years of service, and your dedication you've put in, and I feel our city is really going to miss you, and that's all I've got to say, and I thank you for that. I want to talk about leaf pickup. You know, this is leaf pickup, and it seems like I get a call every year. I got one this afternoon and people, please don't put your leaves out in the street or in the curb and gutter, because when it rains, it stops it up. Keep your leaves behind the curb and gutter, and if you don't have a curb and gutter, keep them out the ditch. Keep them back in your yard, and we'll come by and pick them up. And you're disrespecting your neighbor when you put them out there and then they wash down on them. And, you know, try to be neighborly and try not to put them out in the street, because it really messes our drainage system up. That's all I'm asking. Everybody have a good holiday and see you next year, I guess.
Thank you, Jerry. Next, we'll move to Steve Cottle. Steve.
David's not here, but I wish for him to, good health and to continue to heal, and I really hope that he can get back on his feet. And anytime anybody's willing to step out and serve the city is, that's it's something that seems really easy, and most days it's not. And so thank you to David for that, and again, I hope that he continues to heal. Jim, I really appreciate what you have been to this city and to this council, but I will readily admit I appreciate most what you have been to me over the last, how long is it, 8 years? I've known you most of my life, I think, but as having the opportunity to get to know you as an adult and to get to spend time talking and thinking and trying to understand things together has been a real joy, and I appreciate all that you've done for this city. I always knew, no matter if we agreed or disagreed, and it was probably 50-50, I knew that I could call you. I knew that you would tell me the truth. I knew that we could have conversation. We could argue. It might be for an hour. It might be for 5 minutes. And I appreciate your willingness to do everything that you can to try to make the city a better place. There's been a lot of work that you've done over the last 8 years that no one will ever know, maybe outside of this room. I think most of us know the work that you've done, but you've really done a lot of really great things that have moved this city forward, specifically related to economic development, and also working with the state to try to move projects forward. But from a personal level, I thank you, and I hope to see you often.
Thank you, Steve. We'll move forward to Ronnie Terrell. Ronnie, you have the floor.
I agree with all of them bragging on you, Jim, but I'm thankful that you won't be checking my pulse now. But anyway, I want to tell you all, I thank you for getting my cold supper. Do I? Are you talking or am I talking?
You got the floor, Ronnie. Go right ahead.
I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. Next, we'll move to Teresa Centers.
Well, I don't know what I can add that everybody else hadn't already said. David will be missed. Rose, you're going to be missed. And Jim, my buddy, you're going to be missed. And it is not an oh happy day. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, Teresa. And for the last word, Jim Davis. Jim, you have the floor.
Well, I wish I could say it's been a pleasure. Most of the time it has been, but there were a few meetings that weren't very much fun. I'd also like to thank all the people that, citizens that supported me through 4 elections, and those in this last election who thought they were supporting me, but it didn't turn out that way. Serving on the city council is an experience, and I would recommend it to anybody. You can do a lot of good for the city. You know what's going on, and I think that's going to be the toughest part for me, because I've been knowing what's going on in the city and what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done, and how we need to do this. But I don't have to worry about that anymore, so that's good. But I do just want to say that it's been an honor and a privilege to serve, and I wish the city well. Thank you, sir. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Jim. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn? By Teresa Centers. Is there a second? By Steve Cottle. All in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no.